Timcast IRL will be live in Miami with Patrick Bet David, Donald Trump Jr., Matt Gaetz, and Luke Rudkowski. Join us there. Get your tickets by clicking the link in the description below or by going to timcast.com.
Every once in a while, you'll be somewhere and you'll see there's one house on the block that is like, I don't care. I'm putting up my political signs. And they're typically 45 pro-Trump signs. There's this one house that I pass in the area that'll have this flag of like Trump standing over eagles. And like, you know, he's like just like a caricature. But there's no equivalent for Joe Biden. There is maybe vote Joe Biden because you like the Democrats, but there's not this same sort of belief in his capabilities, in my opinion.
I think that's just because people voted for Joe Biden because they wanted to get Trump out. He was the anti-Trump guy. They weren't necessarily so gung-ho about Biden. They just didn't like Trump that much that they would vote for Biden to get Trump out. So they're not incentivized to wave the Biden flags or buy some Biden merch in the same way that pro-Trump voters were.
They're definitely not super fans. They're not like the Trump base, that's for sure.
Right. Even like I remember there was a lot of Obama merch back in the day. He had mad hype.
Hillary Clinton, she had a bunch of stuff.
I'm with her.
See her H's all everywhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, Joe Biden's just never captured that attention any of the times he's run for president.
No way.
If you live in a neighborhood where people feel safe and comfortable to put up political signage of different diverse views, consider yourself quite fortunate. Coming from Portland, Oregon, if you didn't even, if you expressed any type of dissenting views, your property would be highly likely subjected to violence or potentially even serious violence like arson or such.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
let me pull up the story real quick. Just put a pin in that. We have this from the Post Millennial. Leader in Richmond Democrat Party group posted bomb threat against Andy No Virginia talk. The post included an image of dynamite with Jarvis writing in the description box, "On my way to the Andy No event." So you've experienced this stuff. I think everyone knows directly covering the extremism. Do you want to elaborate on what you were talking about?
Well, you know, because the left has cultural dominance, and they face no censure, no social consequences for expressing radical and hateful extremist beliefs. They're able to push it further and further to the point where you can have somebody who's, I mean, we're not talking about somebody who's in black bloc, Antifa type of group. This is somebody who's in a leadership role in the Richmond City Democratic Committee, which is the official Democrat Party group in Richmond, Virginia, feeling confident and fine to put this type of posts publicly. And going back to what I was just saying a moment ago, those leftists who feel empowered to go and destroy people's properties because of they're expressing a different political view. So, you know, my heart is warm just to hear Claire just talk briefly about, you know, the different type of political signs that she's seen in places she lives. Don't take that for granted. If you're an American who lives in one of those places, consider yourself lucky, because there are places like Portland, Seattle, obviously different boroughs of New York, where you are potentially put yourself and your family at risk for expressing a mainstream political view.
Well, and they had that guy whose biker neighbor went and lit his Trump sign on fire. I mean, there are places that people do feel entitled to.
Well, they weren't neighbors, though. The guy lived kind of far
I just
away.
meant that he biked in the area. I think it's interesting. One of the things that you're saying reminds me of, in your book, you talked about how people, especially progressive groups, will travel to small towns and set up coffee shops or bookstores and sort of become very visible in that sense. And that becomes sort of how they begin to have influence and control areas. So there are times that people are expressing their views because they are relying on the tolerance and the community's ability to welcome them, even if they don't agree with them. And then they become sort of a destructive force in and of themselves.
Oh, yeah. We see this phenomenon all the time. People who adhere to a certain principle of tolerance, and then the other side gains power, and that is not reciprocated back onto them, and they suffer as a result. I mean, conservatives experience that a lot, right? We want to welcome and protect all views of expression, but then you have those who are calling for an overturning of the entire system and a totalitarian system where people are subjected to violence, potentially, or death for their views. And I mean, I'm not saying that's manifested in real life necessarily anywhere in the US, but there's certain pockets where those type of sentiments are salient to a population, and they're able to cause so much violence and destruction on those around them, and the victims just have no ability to counter. So I was speaking in Richmond because Richmond is a city that has experienced over the years a really radical cultural shift to the left. I think a lot of that has to do with the university there, the Virginia Commonwealth University. They had months of riots in 2020 like Portland, and a lot of the same parallels between Portland and Virginia I documented and explored in the speech. You have so elected local officials, the mayor or those on city council, condoning the riots, even going out to some of those protests turned riots to participate and give them support. You have police whose ability to actually enforce the law is curtailed by the local politicians. And then you have outside agitators coming in, and with that, a lot of money. And it just creates, a lot of destabilization. I think one of the questions I was asked when I spoke on Friday was like, could this happen again? And I say, well, yes, obviously, because the networks that were strengthened and established in 2020 are not only still there, they're stronger now. And there might be a bit of protest and riot fatigue today, but just give it a bit of time and there will be some other George Floyd type moment that's caught on video, clipped, exploited, and blasted on social media. Get people to the streets.
Well, 2024 is around the corner. It is about that time.
Yeah.
Right? 2020, BLM, George Floyd, election year. 2024, this next summer.
But Richmond doesn't have any more monuments to pull down. What are they going to do?
Richmond. It could be literally anywhere. And the issue is the media lies. So let's say let's say something like this. 2024, and there's like some dude working in his garage in the suburbs of, I don't know, let's say Youngstown, Ohio. He's in his garage. And then some dude sneaks into his garage and, say, grabs a power tool case, a couple $100, and then runs for it. And this guy's been known to the neighborhood. So the dude calls the police. The guy's neighbor confronts the guy and grabs him and stops him, and they fight over the tool. And then the dude who is stealing it, falls down, hits his head, and dies. The media will report that two white men approached a man who was walking down the street, a black man, and they mercilessly beat him to death. And then you'll get your riots. And then a month later, the video will be released from their Ring security camera showing the guy robbing the house, and it'll be just like Ahmaud Arbery. And they will find any story they can to create a racially charged atmosphere that will result in riots. And then they'll use that to claim racism or whatever. And then the people who are correctly calling out this story does not, follow that line. They'll say, aha, they're racist. Disprove it. Don't vote for Republicans, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the story? It was kind of inverse to that. Of course, it didn't get coverage because the victim was white, but I guess these two black dudes pulled up to a basketball court and they got into a fight with the white guy. Black dude hits the white guy and white guy falls on his head, dies. They went to trial, beat an involuntary manslaughter charge, and were only convicted of assault.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep. What's going to happen with 2024 is they don't need there to be an actual instance of like racism or violence. The media will just make it up. Garage pull rope, it's a noose.
Well, Trump being the Republican nominee would get people out on the streets. I mean, in 2015 and early 2016, that was such a powerful propaganda coup for Antifa because, before their messaging, extremist messaging comes out through their pamphlets and texts and their blogs, which reaches a smaller audience. With Trump being the nominee at that time, then now they have the entire liberal media establishment saying the exact same talking points. America might elect a fascist, and then after the election, America did elect a fascist. Death camps are around the corner, mass deportations around the corners. I mean, this sounds crazy as I say it now, but look back on the opinion pieces and headlines that were published in the papers of record. Those were the type of sentiments that they were putting out. And it brainwashed a lot of useful idiots on the left to go out and be much more accepting of political violence on their side.
I don't know why or how this happened, but I feel like amongst my generation and the younger generations coming up, political violence and vitriol is just so high. And it really rubs me the wrong way to see that people aren't even accepting of just opposing beliefs. It's either my way or the highway. You're evil. If you're evil, I can go after you and hurt you because I am the good guy.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.